Myanmar's former leader, Aung San Suu Kyi, has appeared in court in person for the first time since her government was overthrown by the military in February. She's facing charges that range from illegally possessing walkie-talkie radios to violating a state secrets law, punishable by 14 years in prison.
16 weeks after she was deposed and disappeared from public view, so she was for the first time allowed to leave a place of detention and also for the first time able to meet with her lawyers. Her trial had been condemned as politically motivated to bar her from contesting any future election. She appeared in court for only 30 minutes. A judge then adjourned her trial until next month. Her lawyer said she was in good health, but she had little information about the dramatic events taking place in the country. Myanmar has been in chaos since the army took power, with daily protests, marches, and strikes nationwide against the junta. A national unity government set up underground by opponents of the coup announced a new flag and the command structure for the People's Defense Force, which is set up to oppose the army. The group said they had killed at least 13 members of the security forces when they overran a police station near the town of Movi.
For more on the latest developments in Myanmar, we're now joined via Zoom live by Mabroor Ahmed, who's the director for the international human rights organization Restless Beings. Mabroor, always good to talk to you. Thanks so much indeed for joining us. How significant is seeing Aung San Suu Kyi for the first time since the coup today?
Thank you for having me. In terms of your question, I think it is quite significant in the sense that for the morale of a lot of Myanmar people, this is a bit of a sea change from what the last few months have been like, essentially with the military having this kind of smoke and mirrors effects that they've had through, lots of secrecy and lots of opaque policy and behavior and commands that have come. So to see Suu Kyi, in essence, taking the stand to offer her side in the case for a lot of people within Myanmar is quite hopeful. In terms of actually what that means and what it translates to, actually probably translates to the military, the junta, upping their efforts to try her quite quickly, it seems, and to find her guilty of some of the crimes that she has been accused of, which in and of themselves are not necessarily the biggest crimes in the world, but are enough for the military to say that she has been ousted from power and that they had to step in to restore order in the country.
Is this not yet again another miscalculation by the military? I mean, Suu Kyi became popular because of how they treated her for years, and she's proved that at the polls with the landslide victory. Surely imprisoning her or doing anything to her will inflame the people even more.
I think, to be honest with you, it seems absolutely inevitable that the country is going down the path of civil war. As you kind of mentioned in your intro, there is now a People's Defense Force, which is, if you like, the National Unity Government's self-proclaimed army or volunteer army that is supposed to overthrow the Tatmadaw, the Burmese military. And that only really means one thing. The NUG, the National Unity Government, is offering as much international support as it possibly can, essentially probably bringing in money and funds as well, much needed money and funds, in an attempt to bring together some sort of legitimacy to their command and control to attempt to overthrow the junta. And like I said, to be honest with you, it looks like a civil war is on the horizon. And as ever in these sorts of situations, circumstances, the power play between the junta and the NLD, Suu Kyi, and like with the National Unity Government, will eventually lead to death and destruction and much bloodshed by Myanmar people. And as ever, like I said, as well as the civilian cost, which is the most expensive.
Before Suu Kyi was arrested and is essentially taken out of public view, she was very definitely the face and the voice of the march towards democracy and against the military. However, by her being put away, one sees and gets a sense that there's a people-led revolution taking place, and so that even if you take out Suu Kyi, the people have already started on a march on their own, haven't they?
To an extent, I agree and I disagree in equal measure. Firstly, although Suu Kyi's winning ticket, if you like, back in 2015 and back in 1990, anti-junta, anti-military, we know in her last year, especially, after the Rohingya genocide, she actually went to the International Court of Justice, representing not only the junta but also the civilian government, as the face of essentially a genocide committing state. And so she was willing to take the stand and take the fall to some degree. So you could argue very conceivably that she was in bed with the military and in consort with the security forces as well, who committed this genocide. And so for her now to be taken out of the equation by the military, and almost for the military to say, actually, well, we're taking back control, while Suu Kyi's popularity will rise to some degree and her notoriety rises to some degree. As you said, the people's movement is strong and it's the one that's developed momentum. But she still does hold a lot of the power strings amongst the National Unity Government, because it is heavily backed by the NLP, the largest party within Burma. And so you have this kind of face-off between a Nobel Peace Prize winning lady, Aung San Suu Kyi, and a military commander-in-chief who's accused of genocide. And it's not too dissimilar, I suppose, to what's happening on the African continent in Tigray with the Ethiopian Abiy Ahmed and his Eritrean counterpart, almost combining together to create this absolute whirlwind of destruction. It's the same thing that happened in Burma, actually. And unfortunately, it seems like there seems to be some sort of history repeating itself.
I'm going to ask you to try and get inside her mind. I know it's almost impossible, but I'm just thinking, you described how perhaps she looked like she was getting into bed with the military. Could that have been calculated? Because she probably figured there's certain things that I can go after and some things that I can't. Or do you think she genuinely believed that the way that the Rohingyas were dealt with, that is what she thought and that's what she believed was the right thing to do?
Look, I don't think anyone with a conscience or a degree of morality would be able to defend the crime of crimes, genocide. Not only did she do that, she actually denied the entire existence of the Rohingya ethnicity. And as a woman, even stood up to claim fake rape when there was clear evidence of multiple rapes and gang rapes going on across Rohingya populations. If it's calculated, it's quite sinister. If it's a calculated approach that she took, and if it's not calculated, and if it is genuinely her feelings of what she holds towards the Rohingya people, then absolutely she is the wrong choice for Myanmar. In that fact, any state anywhere in the world, when you can sideline and marginalize and then essentially commit genocide on the population, you're not fit to rule or govern. Or actually even be a member of society. And so I can't see any respite or anywhere that she can justify inaction. And because it's not just inaction, it's actually actual complicity. Going and standing at the ICJ is complicity. Now, that's obviously different to the situation that she finds herself in now. She hasn't been placed under arrest by the military because she went and stood at the ICJ to defend the genocide, or because she was a genocide there herself, and internal investigations have found that. She is standing at the dock because the military found her to be an inconvenient and an impediment to their continued succession in reign. And so that's why they've removed her from the pathway, just so that they could secure their furtherance in their agenda. And, you know, security, as Shakespeare said, security is mortal's chiefest enemy. And what the military are doing at the moment is by securitizing Burma more and more, by launching more and more fronts of ethnic atrocities and attacks. They're simply digging themselves a bigger grave because, like I said, and as you've mentioned as well, the tide has turned in Burma, and there is a popular support for some sort of change and some sort of uprising. That probably is going to translate into civil war. It probably also will mean that the military will be deposed, and the old NLD, to some degree, Suu Kyi will make a return to the helm. I don't know how much of a change that actually is, and I don't buy into the change necessarily as enough to step away from a state which committed genocide, because there are still definitely elements of that kind of ethnic tension, not just against the Rohingya, but for many other ethnicities, also within the ranks of the NLD at the moment. So I think it's a rocky road ahead. I don't think Burma's out of the woods yet of being a country that's ready to take steps towards reconciliation. But without question, the people's desire for a change is there. And it would be a crying shame if that was to be denied via destruction and violence of the military, or in fact any civil war could wreak havoc on.
In the meantime, what is the situation on the ground as we speak? Are people still out on the streets every day and are still the subject to massive action by the authorities?
Well, of course, the numbers are a lot reduced compared to what we saw in the very early days in February. But yes, absolutely, the people are committed to this civil disobedience, and that disobedience continues. And there is tensions continuously up and down cities across Burma between the general public and the security forces. But of course, we've also seen the security forces acting in more of a security force manner as well, and attacking certain ethnic groups recently as well. We've seen a lot of attacks happening in Chin State in an area called Mindat as well. And as your correspondent mentioned in Mobil earlier on, the People's Defense Force actually attacked some of the security forces as well. And so little skirmishes like this and conflict zones are becoming more and more popular and commonplace. And like I said, it seems, and I really do hope this isn't the case, but it does seem that civil war is on the horizon.
All right, and perhaps finally and briefly, if you can, one gets a sense that there are ethnic tensions that are underlying at the moment. Are people united against a single enemy for the time being, and that perhaps after the army, if it goes, these will probably come back to the fore?
Absolutely. I think that's without question. There is definitely a unity around the desire to get rid of the Tatmadaw and the junta in one fell swoop. I think that without question the common unifying factor amongst all people. And that, of course, should be commended and supported in as much and as fervently as possible. But I don't think that we can isolate just that desire to overthrow the junta, to delay the conversation about ethnic reconciliation. I think that needs to be part and parcel of the conversation right now, before the actual move to depose the military occurs. Because otherwise what happens is you are just removing one majoritarian class, if you like, the military class, for another majoritarian class, which would be the Burma-led class as well. And that just leaves too many opportunities for further ethnic disunity in the future. And at a time where change is likely to happen, it's better to address these things now. I think that's generally what a lot of young people inside Burma, a lot of the diaspora, leaders amongst the diaspora are also calling for. There are good people within the NUG, people like Dr. Sasa, who is also asking for the same sorts of things. And I think that's really what the international community wants as well. So I think before there's any more definitive action, that is something that definitely needs to be settled, and that then needs to become part of the narrative of the change that Burma wants to see for itself going forward.
Okay, Mabrur Ahmed, we're going to have to leave it there. Your insights are always greatly appreciated. Thank you very much indeed for your time.